Welcome to Sustainable Leadership Live. I'm Lisa Danforth, your host, and today I have the wonderful Heather Bennett here. She is a creative brand coach, and we're going to be talking about how to build our brand online so that we can enhance our career or our business. So I say, let's jump right in. Heather, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Can you just share just a little bit about you and how you got into this, just so people know? I mean, just a sentence or two would be great.
Sure. I have MBA. I focused on marketing. I discovered through that applying brand concepts to individuals when coaching them on their businesses, especially executives and leaders, would help them be better leaders and better founders and, find better careers. So really applying that branding concept to the individual. So that's how I got to personal branding.
I love it. Let's jump in. When we were in the green room, we were really talking about that leadership and the different things that we need to focus on. You want to start there? Because I think, like you were saying, it's probably one of the most important things that we can focus on, leading ourselves and leading others.
Right. And I love that you start with the idea of leading yourself because personal branding really starts with self-awareness. So
Yes.
being able to understand who you are, what you bring to the table, what your experiences and all the knowledge that you've gained has brought to your current career, to your current position of leadership, and understanding how to communicate that in a way that instills confidence in your team, the people who work for you, and also, on the other side, vendors, your competitors, the industry. Leaders are expected to be thought leaders now, and to really express themselves in a way that shows they understand what's going on in that industry, what's going on in that business. You have to understand yourself. You have to have that self-awareness before you go ahead and share that with others. So I think you really do need, as a leader, to start with yourself, and then you can start working on building your team and strengthening the people you work with and for and who work for you.
So what I'd love to know is, do you have a tip or two for people to really start being that thought leader? Because when we're taught, we're not taught
Good.
how to be a leader, right? So it's sort of like lead in a bully type of way. How do we start transitioning into being that authentic leader and focusing on how we're showing up so that we can create the space for our team? What are some tools that you could use that you've seen work with people?
There's really two halves of that. It's one, what the information you're sharing, so the actual knowledge that you're sharing, and that really means taking time to understand what you bring. What makes your knowledge valuable, and really keeping up with what's going on trend-wise and in the industry. You can't just rest on your laurels. You have to constantly be learning. So that's part of it. That's the knowledge base. The second part would be how you share that information. And that gets much more complicated now. If we're specifically speaking online, that means having a consistency of the message of what knowledge you know across everywhere you show up online, whether that's the signature to your email, or it's, your Facebook page or your LinkedIn page, specifically for professionals, your LinkedIn page. One thing I recommend people really have a consistent presence. So what is said on your LinkedIn page, on your professional Twitter, on your professional Instagram, wherever you're showing up, even on your company webpage, should be consistent. It doesn't have to be the exact same wording, but there really should be a story that if someone is going through all of those, they consistently see this person is incredibly knowledgeable and has experience in this area. And that's why they're trustworthy.
I love that consistency, because it's in my belief, and I'd love for you to talk a little bit about this, it's in the consistency that it becomes sustainable, right? So we start to be more comfortable with it when we are showing up consistently and being who we need and want to be. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and the secret to that is authenticity. And I mean, I know we've talked about this, but it's really authenticity. It's that self-awareness, so you know what is truly your body of knowledge. You really know what you're bringing to the table. And what's interesting, especially for leaders and people who've been in the industry for a while, they take for granted how much they know. and how valuable their knowledge is. So you may need to employ or, ask help from
Mhm.
a team member or the people who know you best. I mean, really get that 360-degree feedback to understand what you may take for granted may be incredibly valuable. So this is not a journey to be done by yourself. You really need to ask yourself the right questions, but also go out and ask others for help.
I absolutely love that. One of the things I have my clients do, specifically the leaders, the executives, is to actually ask the people around them that are close to them, what do they
Oh, that's
see
good.
are your strengths and what do they see are your weaknesses? And for the person to receive both without judgment, right? So just in
Yes.
because we can see the consistency when we talk to the people around us of how we're showing up, and
Mhm.
it's undeniable. So we can say, oh my gosh, I really am good at this, but I always thought I've struggled.
That's so true because your perception may not always be completely clear, and that's okay. It's just having an awareness of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And balancing, balancing them, both of the polarities of how we're showing up
Mhm.
authentically. I know a person that have spoken with recently talks about there's such a difference between that authenticity of showing up and showing your personal life, because people want to hear our story. That's a part of us as a leader. But
Yeah.
there's a difference between personal and private.
Yes,
And let
yes.
me share.
Okay, so the way I handle this question, because I do get this a lot, how much do I share? What do I share? What content do I share online? Because you do want to have that level of authenticity, and that requires letting people get to know you a little more. The way I handle this question is I explain your life and all of you is like a fire hose, full blast turned on. Now, does anybody really want to get that entire blast of water in their face? No. But a nice trickle of what decide exactly what should come towards people and what they should know about you. It has to be authentic. So it's got to be the water that's coming out of the hose. But does it have to be all of it? No.
God, no.
So, really, really curating and understanding what's important, not just for you to share, but for what they need. Think about your target market. What are they looking for? You're not going to share something that doesn't make sense in the wrong platform.
So true. And I just want to, excuse me, share that with my social media manager, she has pushed me
Mm.
to share more of my personal story, because I've always been like, who cares what I'm up to? Literally, I'm a New Englander, right? Just keep it.
Yeah.
But those are the posts that actually get the most interaction. Those are the posts that get the most views and are
Mm.
insightful and start the conversation. So I just wanted to share that, because it is really tough to do that, but to be able to have someone to help you kind of bring that out, I think it's
That's
important.
so true. I've noticed that your posts are skewing towards just capturing those really what I call wonderful moments where you're getting to meet with people, you're getting to have conversations with them, and it's real
Mhm.
and fun, and that's good.
It's fun, but it's also frightening to put ourselves out there. I think the key for
Yes.
me is I have someone help me that sort of ties the story into, how other people can take the lesson forward within their life or within their business for the most
Mhm.
part. But it's a tough one, but I would invite all of you to do so, because it does establish that leadership.
You
Now,
had a good conversation, I think it was with Dorian on that specific point about
mhm.
how to tie the personal brand into storytelling. They're so tied together. So everyone should go listen to that episode or watch that episode because she does a very good job of explaining that.
She is a master at that. She's actually the
Mhm.
one that helps me. She's so phenomenal. Go check out Doreen Morin Van Dam on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Follow her. She has got so many great tips and will absolutely help us step into that leadership piece, which is
Mhm.
so key. So let's back it up a little bit and talk about how does our brand help us, our online brand, how does it help us with our business and our career, just to get a little more granular?
Of course. So with your personal brand, and I think was it Sarah that covered this? I'm trying to remember. The idea is that people don't buy from companies, they buy from people. And this includes buying ideas. If you work
Ooh,
in we'll say like a software company or something, you're selling or a consulting company, you're selling ideas. It's non-tangible, but at the same point, you're still selling. And so the idea being, in order for someone to buy those concepts, to take the recommendations from you, to trust you, they need to know who you are. And they need to recognize that your personal brand is trustworthy. So the way you do that is by consistently showing up, being authentic. It comes into all of your interactions with them, both online and offline. I know we talk a lot about personal branding as being primarily this online celebrity, how I'm showing up on YouTube or whatever. But really, it's more than that. It's also how you show up day to day in the workplace, how you show up in your phone conversations, how you show up in person as well. And those should be consistent. There's nothing more jarring than seeing a personality online and then you meet them in person and they're completely different. And I know you get to meet a lot of amazing people, so I'm sure you've had this happen at least one time.
Oh, many. Absolutely.
Many.
Absolutely. Right. I think it's that we're told to be a certain way. So we show up that way and it's uncomfortable. The thing is I think we can always sense it in someone else. Even if there's nothing specific, but we can sense when people are trying to be someone other than they are. And again, that leadership piece, like we were talking in the green room, is just so very important.
Yeah. So for business, really, it is really showing up consistently and building trust with the people that you're working with. So if you want your business to succeed, you need the people you work with to trust you and to feel confident that what you're going to do will consistently help all of you succeed.
So let's talk about vulnerability for just a moment. What you just said just sort of really triggered that in me, because we do need to bring that vulnerability piece to the table. That does not mean all of the private stuff, right? How do you help people bring that authenticity, that vulnerability of who they are, what their struggles are, just the piece that makes them human, and for people to want to be led by them?
Yes, there's a few things in that arena that I'm thinking specifically. One is that failure helps us succeed. Failure is part of the process. I have a scientific background, so I understand very seriously how you need to fail a million times before you reach that one success. And so being open and honest about what you've learned from your failures is so important. So that would be one way I would say to bring the authenticity to your relationships, your business relationships. Secondly, I think the other way to show your vulnerability is to admit that you don't know everything and to really be a continuous learner and to ask for help, ask for knowledge. And this goes back to the entire concept, which I'm a huge supporter of servant leadership. Surround yourself with people who are smarter than you to get the job done. So really being open and honest about being a continuous learner, wanting to know more, and being able to say that you don't know something is really a good way to instill trust in others.
Everything that you just said is so wrapped up in our personal brand, our online brand, all of it. That just anchors everything. Amazing. Let's talk about a term that we've heard that's really been bubbling up all over the place these days. Quiet quitting. I'll let you run with that a little bit.
Yeah. So this is the concept. From what my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the idea that people have had enough. And so instead of actually quitting their jobs or looking for a new one, they just dial back to not doing the job they were hired to do or doing less than they should or they could do.
I think that's it. Could do, right?
They could do. And
really.
you as a leader, you want the people who work for you to be so excited and so moved by the work they're doing that they want to do more, that they want to exceed beyond expectations, not necessarily reaching their goals, but finding new ways to do things, be innovative and creative. And that's where we get the biggest jumps in terms of development of a company and a business, but also in terms of developing those individuals for their career. You want them to be in that excited, learning, innovative feeling.
Mhm.
When we're talking about quiet quitting, they are not in that state at all. They
At
don't
all.
wanna learn anymore, they don't wanna be there, and 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 I think this is what I would call the next step after the, Great Resignation. There's a lot of people who tried that and said, "Okay, I'm going to go find a different job that's going to make me happy," but they may not have taken the time to do the research and get to know themselves, get to know the
Yes.
companies, get to know the industries, and if you don't take that time and you just jump because you just think that's the thing to do, you're not gonna necessarily land on your feet and be successful.
Wherever you go, there you
Yeah,
are.
exactly. So, I believe that the quiet quitting concept is that next phase. People have realized that just resigning, just, quitting your job and going to do something else is not gonna solve the problem. So then they're going through the process of saying, "Okay, I guess I just hang out here," which is
Mail it
not
in.
helping anyone.
No,
No.
no. Which is a really sad way to sort of go through, I think, go through our days. Have you done much core values work?
I feel that that's part of understanding a personal brand, so that's certainly part of my process is understanding, you know, it's the purpose-driven, career. Right now, there's been a massive shift, I'd say, in the last couple of years, the last 10 years even, I think much more so now, but to trying to find work that fulfills your personal mission, so your purpose. So that would be where I would see core values matching up with personal
Mhm.
branding and careers and business.
It's so important.
Mhm.
Understanding. I mean, there's I think it's David Allison wrote a book called We're All the Same Age Now, and it's about value
Oh,
graphics. It's not demographics or even
yeah.
psychographics now. It's really that value graphics and understanding that we make choices
Mhm.
according to what's most important to us. And those core values are so incredibly important.
That's yeah, it's influencing even, how people are deciding to invest. You are investing, you are, from a
100%.
consumer perspective, you are buying from companies that you feel match your mission, your purpose, what's important to you. And that has changed. We were talking earlier about now how companies are not just having to think about maximizing profits. They really need to think beyond that and what their mission is and how they're affecting the world around them, hopefully positively. So it's it's definitely there's a lot more at stake now.
There is a lot more at stake now. And one more question, if you are willing to sort of jump in a little bit here, is
Mhm.
do you see more companies coming from a place of fear, so they're doubling down and pushing more? Or are they starting
Oh,
to be more open to creating some spaciousness for people to be, to try, to fail, to grow?
wow, that is a good. I will say the successful companies are, and
100%.
that's really listening. That is a listening process. I have noticed there is an increase in leaning on the human resources department. So those CHROs are becoming much more important because you talk about the resources of a company, and it's not just the capital expenditures of the building, the machinery, the fleet of cars. It really is also the value of that human talent and how difficult it is to replace it if it is good and to find good human talent. So that is where I see a shift in that companies who are going to succeed, who are going to be able to make this, giant COVID pivot work for them, are well the ones who are going to understand the value of that human resource and figure out how to inspire. I think a lot of this has to do with leadership understanding how to keep employees engaged, and that's something that has been concerning to me for about a year. I've been thinking a lot about it, reading a lot about it, because I want to understand more about how leadership can truly engage employees and get them motivated to do a wonderful job and be excited about the work.
And it's
Otherwise, you're not going to be able to keep the great human talent. There's no
right.
way.
It's so costly to
Mhm.
continually have that churn, that turnover. And it doesn't
Mhm.
include, just keeping them. a latte machine, and a ping pong table. That does not
Touchdown.
work. That does not work.
No,
We
no.
are just about at time, Heather. I think we could talk for another hour,
Easily.
but easy, right? We can do another one. We'll jump on another episode.
Lovely.
But what I'd love to know is what one habit or boundary has supported you in living and leading a sustainable life?
Truly, that's there are so many. I work with my clients on both time management and productivity are two of the strongest ones I work with. So I'll say for me personally, I'll let a little personal. I have a series of yoga
Mhm.
positions that I have been doing for 20 something years. And I've added to them as needed, things
Mhm.
things happen, you go to physical therapy, what you add these stretches in the morning. It's so funny, I find when I do them, it gives me the opportunity to pause at the beginning of the day,
Love that word.
and I know you do, but it does, you to pause and get that deep breathing in there so
Mhm.
because it's so much more than just the stretches or the positions, but having that moment to be contemplative, to get those deep breaths in the beginning of the day, really fill your lungs. No matter where and it's wonderful because no matter where I am, I can do
Right.
these positions. I don't need anything to be able to do them. It's just and that's really, I think, key is trying to find those habits, like The Power of Habits, Atomic Habits. You read all these books, is really finding the ones that you can get to
Mhm.
stick.
Yeah. And go
So
small. Start small.
yes. Start small.
Beautiful.
Yes. Start with 1 or 2. I always tell people, start with something small. If it's 10 minutes of walking
Build the muscle.
or do it. If it's 2 yoga positions or just 3 deep breaths every time you sit at your computer,
Let's
start
do it.
there. That's all
Yeah.
you need to do, and then you can build.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So, where can people reach out to you? And if you would also mention your book that you've got in the back there as
Oh,
well,
of
just so
course.
people.
Okay. So the book is Fun and Fulfilling Careers, One Question at a Time. It's based on 20 years of coaching executives, entrepreneurs. It's reached bestseller on Amazon. So that's a good place to start. But I also have a website, creativebrandcoach.net, which has tons of free resources and articles on just free stuff. There's just lots of
What's the
information
website?
there. Creativebrandcoach.net.
.net. Okay,
Mhm.
perfect. Thank you. You did mention that before. So,
And I do have my own personal one, which is heatherhbennett.com. So either one of those will lead to the other and lots of information, lots to learn from.
and be sure to reach out to Heather on LinkedIn as well. Just
Yes.
mention that if you saw her here on Sustainable Leadership Live, you mentioned that so she knows where you are coming from. So, Heather, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Next week, August 31st, I have the fabulous Rhonda Burns, who is a sales consultant. She is phenomenal. And she's going to be talking about how to grow sustainable revenue and feel good about doing it. We can have sales and feel like we're thriving as well. So please join next week, August 31st, 10 a.m. East Coast time, 7 a.m. Pacific. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.